Howdy y'all, welcome back to the Country Boy Can Survive Kitchen. So, sorry it's been a while, but hopefully you've been making do on your pizza rolls and your beans and cornbread. But today we're going to be talking about beverages. Now, as you know, you've only seen one type of beverage displayed in my videos, but you got to have something for the youngins as well. Now, I probably should have made this video a little bit earlier in the season because it's been a hot summer where I am anyway, and it would have come in handy. But anyway, y'all can practice over the fall and winter and have it right for next year. But it's a pretty much an all year round beverage. But I got to thinking, you know, until you're tall enough in order to, you know, drink your Budweisers, you gotta have other options. So I figured I'd tell you the proper way in which to make some Kool-Aid. Now we're going to go into the Kool-Aid mixing in just a little while, and I'll tell you all about it. But make sure that when you go to get the Kool-Aid, that you don't mix it up with the Flavor Aid. Now the Flavor Aid is that stuff that you've seen on the documentaries that Jim Jones guy used down in Ghana. You don't want that. Now it don't come with the stuff he put in it, but I still don't take any chances. You just go with your Kool-Aid. It's relatively inexpensive. You're going to get usually 5 for $1 or something. It depends on where you go. But they come in a variety of flavors, and we'll get into all those in just a minute. Just hold your britches. We'll get there. Now some of your other beverages that ain't beer that you can go with if you'd like would be your Gatorade, for example. So we try to keep these in stock for the kiddos, and then every once in a while I'll drink myself one in the middle of my beer when I'm working outside, because I tell you, if you sweat a lot, it depends on how often you peed. If you ain't peed for a few hours, you probably need to drink you a Gatorade, because that beer just ain't fulfilling your body back up with everything you're sweating out. So your Gatorade is something that you probably want to get. Now they got all kinds. This is another one of them bean stories with this sodium-free stuff without the sodiums in it. You don't want any of the free Gatorade types of stuff. You want the original Gatorade that they made back in the day that works. So I stick with the lemon lime original Gatorade, and usually you can get these on sale. We load up on them quite a bit when they go on special, about 88 cents. And then now this is more of your relaxing non-alcoholic beverage, and this would be your standard Mountain Dew. Once again, these usually go on special for $1 a piece for your 1 liters. That's the best way to drink them. If you do the math, which I had somebody do the math for me, and they figured up that this one is a 1 liter sizes. It's actually one and a quarter, but you know, whatever. It ain't the 2 liter, and it ain't the little bottles that you get at your local little gas station, because they'll rip you off $2, $3, $4 for them things. Lord have mercy, who's got that kind of money laying around? So you want to stick with your 1 liter sizes, and you can usually get these for about a buck. Now, this would be another alternative to your beer, but we're talking about non-alcoholic beverages today, so I'll leave this off to the side. But we'll get into the bourbons, maybe another episode of the series. So, what you're going to need to start with is you're going to need a pitcher. All right, this one is a gallon-sized pitcher. We're going to make a gallon of Kool-Aid. All right, gallon-sized pitcher. I read it. It said a gallon. I trust it. Now, you're going to need you something to measure with. Now, unless you got one of them fancy measuring dishes, you're going to need to know what a cup is. And a cup, I did the lookup on this. See, I prepare for these videos. I don't just wing it. I do my research. So, a cup is 8 ounces. Now, if you do the math on that and you double it, it's going to be somewhere around 16 ounces, I think. But ironically, I read somewhere in a saloon one time that a pint of beer is your 16 ounces. So the best way to measure out your 16 ounces that you're going to need is going to be a fancy beer glass that you want at your local saloon during the Christmas season or something. Anyway, you're going to need your 16 ounce beer thing to measure your sugar with. That's what we're going to do with that. Then you're going to need something to get ice out with, and now you want to be fully prepared and have some ice ready to go and frozen up. So you might want to think about this a day or two in advance. Get you some ice get you some water in a cool spot and make some ice before. But unless you go to the gas station and just sneak you a little bit out of the dispenser there and then you run off with it. But it's going to take quite a bit to make what we're about to make. Now, let's get into exactly what you're looking for. So They make all sorts of different flavors, all right? But there's really only about 3 good ones. I mean, that are classic, worthwhile, until they stop making them. Why would you go with anything else? Now, you're gonna have your cherry, all right? Classic original cherry. Other favorite's gonna be your classic original grape, all right? And then one of our household favorites is gonna be your classic original orange, all right? Now, for this day and this purpose, I think we're gonna make some cherry because it's red, it shows up good, and we hadn't had cherry in a little bit. So I'm gonna make some cherry. Now you're gonna need 2 of these. The way I make it, don't read these instructions on the back. Number one, you can't read them because they print them in such darn little, shoot, I'd have to have a magnifying glass with a magnifying glass behind that one in order to even see that there's words on here. But I did that once, and what I learned was that it talks about all kinds of craziness on the directions. They don't know how to make Kool-Aid. They just sell you the packets, and then you listen to me and I'll tell you how to make Kool-Aid. So they're also going to try to confuse you by calling sugar sweetener, and they're going to start mentioning other words like splendors and all kinds of craziness and sweetener, different alternatives. And anyway, it's sugar, y'all, okay? Sugar. Ain't nothing ever bad happen with sugar until they stop producing sugar. You use sugar, all right? So you're going to need your sugar, and that's where, now we keep ours in this fancy canister, and we keep a little bit of it because between the cookies and the Kool-Aids and the other stuff that takes sugar around here, you need a lot of sugar on hand. So we're going to start by getting our supplies together, and then we'll get into it. So let's start with our sugar, all right? Remember, 16 ounces of sugar. 16 ounces right on the dot, all right? Just makes you want to tip it up. You got that thing in your hand, it makes you want to think it's a beer. All right, now we got our sugar, we got our pitcher, we got our Kool-Aid mix out there, and we know what flavor, and we got 2 of them, 2 packs, 2, not 1, not 1, 2 packs. All right, now what we're going to do here is we're going to do this number. That shakes all the yummy goodness out of the top of this little packet here down in the bottom so you don't lose any. Then you're going to carefully just tear it open like that. You're going to open it up like this. All right, following me? You got it? All right. You're going to dump it in there, and you're going to tap on it a little bit. All right. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. You need the water supply here, all right? And you want to get that water pretty warm there. And we're going to dribble this water in there until it fills up this little packet. And then you're going to pour it into the pitcher, all right? And I might even do that one more time. You want to get all the little leftover Kool-Aid out of that little packet, all right? Then you can throw this in the trash. All right, now if you need more practice, you're in luck because we got to do it all over again, just like that one. We do our little shaky deal, and then we open her up, all right? And then we dump her in the pitcher. All right, tap, tap. And then we're going to fill her up like that. Dump her in the pitcher. Fill her up. Dump her in the pitcher. All right. Now you're going to start smelling these wonderful smells, either cherry, orange, or grape, whatever you decided to pick from. You're going to start smelling some goodness. All right, what's next? You're going to take your sugar. You're going to dump your sugar right in there. All right, tap, tap, tap. All right, so we got 2 packs of Kool-Aid, 16 ounces sugar, or a pint, or a fancy beer container. All right, now, here's the deal. You heat this water up here just as much as it will heat up, all right? It should be almost burning your finger. Might even see a little bit of steam coming off of it. Now you're gonna put you a little bit really hot water in there, all right? Real hot water, all right? Not too much, but about like that. Now, you're gonna need you a spoon. It doesn't have to be one of them paddling spoons that you know, whip the kids with. It just needs to be a little stirring spoon, but it needs to be tall enough. Let me get this out of the way. That's probably right in the way. Now we're gonna be stirring, stirring, stirring. All right, now that's gonna dissolve all of the sugar and the Kool-Aid. All right, now why do we do this? Because the worst part about making Kool-Aid, is if you make it by their directions, number one, it's not going to dissolve and be that good right away. And number two, it's not going to be that cold right away. And there's just all these little factors that go into it that you learn over the years of making Kool-Aid the proper way. And all these little tricks of the trade. So now we got our good Kool-Aid base. All right. Now this is when we add some ice in there. We're going to cool this down. You want to make sure it's all dissolved, but now we can add some ice. Now, I forgot I also had this cup. If you ever can steal you one of these from a store or something, this, if it says 16 on the bottom, it's probably 16 ounces, probably what that means. And so you can probably use that if you don't have one of them fancy beer glasses, because you ain't been to the saloon in order to win you one. So you can use one of them. Now the gas stations are going to have you something like this. All right. Now these are okay, but here's the problem with that is unless you measure and mark them or something, you never buy a 16-ounce one of these of the fountain Cokes at your gas stations. It's always one of these deals, either this or bigger, and this ain't 16 ounces. It's a lot more than 16 ounces, so you really can't use these. But you know what these are good for? It's good for pouring your ice in there. So let's get us some ice. All right, so after you done dug up in your freezer and got you some ice, then you're going to carefully start putting this ice down in there without trying to splash it too much. All right. Then you're going to want to stir a little bit. All right. Stir while you go, because what that does is go ahead and cool that down. It also melts that ice a little bit. Makes it just about right. I'm going to need you about one more of these to put in there. All right, so one more thing of ice. Second time you pour it in, you don't have to be quite as careful with the splashing, because the ice you done put in there the first time help not to splash out. Stir, stir, stir. All right. Now, here's what we're going to do. On this faucet here, the other side is cold. So we're going to turn that water back to cold water, cold tap water. All right. And we're going to go ahead and fill her up here to just below that gallon mark. Stir it up a little bit more. You'll see that the ice is starting to become smaller than the chunks you put in there originally. As they start to melt, that's going to make it good. Because here's what you don't want. You don't want a whole bunch of ice in the top of your pitcher when you go to take a drink out of it. Because when you're pouring it out of the pitcher, guess what you're going to get? All this ice is going to melt and form a bunch of watery nastiness on the top, and you're not going to get the good Kool-Aid underneath. So you want it to be all mixed in and mixed up. You can add ice later if you want to and pour the Kool-Aid over the ice, but you don't want a bunch of ice on top of your Kool-Aid pitcher, because that's going to water it down something awful. All right, we're going to add just a little bit more here. Yeah, about like that's good. All right. Now, let me make it just a little bit stronger, a little bit sweeter than it typically calls for. All right, now, that is your perfect pitcher of Kool-Aid right there. All right, get you a nice drinking cup. Yep, that's perfect. Just the way God intended Kool-Aid to be made. So, Now, if you're feeling a little froggy, there have been people that have been known to put some vodka or some rum or something like that to sort of spike it up a little bit. So if you made it for the kiddos, but then you got some adults around that are tall enough to, you know, drink grown-up drinks, then you can probably add a little bit of something to that Kool-Aid there and make it all fancy if they don't like beer, which that still stunned me. I hear people that say they don't like beer, don't like the taste of beer. I hadn't figured it out yet, don't quite understand it, but I take their word for it. So if you don't, sometimes you're going to probably get into some of your clearer drinks and your moonshines and such, and you can add a little bit of that for flavor, and then that'll get you through the day as well. Hopefully I taught y'all something today, and let's see, after all that work, I think it's about time to get started on something outside. And since I'm tall enough to be drinking a Budweiser, I think I've earned me one. Until next time, people, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again.
Boy can survive. Country folks can survive. Because you can't starve about and you can't make a run. Those William old boys raised on shotgun. We say grace, we say ma'am. If you ain't into that, we don't give a damn. We came from the West Virginia coal mine.